Welcome back to Travel Show Live, and we've decided to bring the entire program here to our own restaurant that we have. We built an entire studio. It looks very nice, I think. No, that's not true. Actually, we're a public restaurant down on Elizabeth Street. A lot of you have been down here before. It is absolutely amazing when it comes, but we'll get to that in just a moment. And we have experts. I love experts. Jay Lewison is here. She's from New Zealand Tourism and Commerce and all things New Zealand.
All things New Zealand.
All things
New Zealand Trade and Enterprise.
That sounds very official.
Sounds very posh, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. Now I'm going to have to behave myself. I don't have to really, do I?
Try to make you.
Oh, very good. And Jesse Webster is here because when it comes to beverages here at Public, and then like 150 other restaurants around town.
Or at least one.
Okay,
yeah.
very good. You are the expert when it comes to wine, especially from New Zealand, correct?
We certainly do our best, yeah. I mean, New Zealand and Australian wine is definitely our provenance here at Public.
Yeah.
So it's close to my
And
heart.
you are both Kiwis.
We
Yes.
both are.
I still have a hard time saying that, but you're Kiwis.
That's how we describe ourselves.
All right,
We're,
then
we're very comfortable with it.
I think maybe we should set the tone just a little bit because we're going to talk about the products and some of the products, but the tourism product itself, when people go, when they come back and they send you email and you see copies of notes from people that have been there and they're just stunned by how beautiful it really is. How do you respond to that?
I say, big surprise. It's a beautiful, beautiful country.
Yeah.
I think when people step on a plane in New York, they arrive in New Zealand some 22 hours later, they step outside at Auckland International Airport. The first thing they'll notice is the quality of light. It's totally different. And then the
What do you mean by that?
It's very bright and clear. So you feel like you've suddenly stepped onto a completely different stage. And then the second thing that they'll notice is that the air smells different because nowhere in New Zealand is very far away from the coast.
Oh, I
So
see.
you have the
Makes sense.
constant sensation of smelling salt air.
Nice.
And that's all within the first
That's
30 seconds.
seconds after you step off the plane.
Yeah. And then shortly thereafter, they'll have a glass of New Zealand wine and their entire worldview will change.
That makes a lot of sense, I suppose. The topography also is different. I mean, it's all across the map
It
there.
is. So New Zealand is comprised, it's an island nation. The two largest islands, the North and the South Island. There are 10 wine regions from the top of the North Island down to the bottom of the South Island. That's
Okay.
roughly 1,000 miles. It's like going from Oregon down to Los Angeles.
Okay.
So
And the climate has a lot to do with these grapes,
it
correct?
It really does. So Northland, for example, it's almost subtropical. You get down to central Otago, where most of our wonderful Pinot Noir wines come from. And it has bitterly cold winters, but very, very hot summers.
Okay.
So it's a mountainous part of New Zealand.
All right. And the grapes are used to that too. They can get along.
They get used to it. We beat them into submission.
I was going to say, it sounds like it. Let's talk a little bit in terms of just some general things. How about time of year to visit? Is there a peak season per se, shoulder season? What, in your opinion, what do you think?
If you're a warm weather person and you want to spend a lot of time at the beach, I would recommend February, March. That's when our summers really settle into the good summer groove. You'll get a lot of sunshine, it won't rain too much, and you can go to the beach and be confident that you will get sunburnt if you don't have your factor 30
Very
on.
good. Got to have the 30 on, yeah.
If you're interested in skiing, go in winter. We've got lots of great ski fields. So a lot of tourists do go there specifically to ski in winter.
And how long in advance? A trip like this, I mean, to me, if you're going to fly 22 hours or even 19 hours from the other side of the country, this is something you need to do for at least a week, correct?
Oh, at least.
You have to do a week. I mean, Americans generally, we don't like to travel for very long. We're not like the Germans who I don't think work. But I don't think they do. They everywhere I go, you see Germans. They're there all the time, 9 weeks a year. But seriously, 7 days, 10 days, 2 weeks, that would be about right.
I would say 2 weeks.
Okay.
Yeah.
We can do the entire country in 2 weeks?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And the thing to remember as well is if you're coming from, say, the East Coast, you'll transit through Los Angeles or San Francisco. The flights leave in the evening. So
Okay.
you'll spend all night on the plane sleeping. You will arrive in New Zealand first thing in the morning, fresh and ready to go.
How long is that flight from Los Angeles?
Roughly 13 hours.
13. That's not too bad. I've done 13. That's actually not bad. I mean, it sounds bad going into it, but it's really not. Trust me when I tell you that's true. All right, we need to get to this wine because I've been looking forward to this interview because I think some people get a little nervous when they step outside of their California thing that they know even to some degree their French thing that they might know a little bit about. Some people do, but the reality is these are phenomenal wines from all different parts of the world. But New Zealand, wins awards every year for which wine? Let's start there.
The wine that's best known is Sauvignon Blanc.
Okay.
And we do win a lot of awards for that.
Mm-hmm.
But at this point, I'm going to hand over to Jessie,
I
who
love
is
that.
the wine
Is this the
expert.
handoff?
This is the handoff.
I love the handoff. You've done such a good job. I don't know, it's a lot to live up to.
It is a lot to live up to now. I will certainly try.
You do your best.
So yeah, like Jay said, Sauvignon Blanc was the grape that wasn't the first grape grown in New Zealand by any means, but it's the first grape that the international community got to say, this is a glass of wine that's New Zealand and has something really interesting and different about it. And that happened probably almost 25 years ago now that those wines were first tasted, generally speaking, in London, which is where it all kind of began. And then it's just sort of grown by leaps and bounds to the point where now Sauvignon Blanc is the biggest, in terms of amount of wine produced, the biggest grape in New Zealand.
And wine growers just surpassed a pretty nice benchmark. What was it, $1 billion in exports for the first time, a year ahead of schedule?
That's right.
Which I think is really interesting.
Yeah, so the
lot of
export
wine.
market for New Zealand is huge. When you have, I'm not exactly sure where we are, maybe 4.5 million people, give or take, in New Zealand now. We certainly can't consume all the wine we produce. So the export market is, vitally important, just as tourism is vitally important to New Zealand. So
All right.
the wine started with Sauvignon Blanc, but as you see, we have 4 wines, and
Okay.
New Zealand has, the wine market is diversified, the vineyards have diversified, and there's a lot of different styles being produced, all I think very, very successfully.
And the reds are also starting to win those awards.
Big time. I mean, Pinot Noir, we have a great Pinot Noir here to taste, and that was probably, following Sauvignon Blanc, that was the next kind of crazy, great New Zealand thing internationally, was Pinot Noir, and continues to be hugely significant. Jay mentioned Central-Otago, which is all the way down in the south part of New Zealand, which is great Pinot Noir region, but there are other places for Pinot as well. And also other varietals. We have a Riesling we're going to look at today.
Okay.
And we have a Bordeaux blend or a Merlot Cabernet blend that we're going to look at.
All right, well, let's taste away, shall we?
Yeah?
What should we start with?
Why don't you pass me that Riesling bottle?
This is the
Yeah.
Riesling, okay.
So you see the Riesling is a tall, skinny bottle, kind of an homage to the German tradition. Although Riesling can be dry, it can be sweet. Many people are afraid of Riesling because they think it's going to be sickly sweet and not very interesting. New Zealand Riesling sort of runs the gamut from quite sweet to extremely dry.
Okay.
And this is sort of in between, so we'll talk about it in a moment.
All right.
Perhaps we're going to mention that New Zealand wines are often seen now with screw cap, which is sort of an interesting distinction for them. I think that there's many reasons, but the basic reason is there's a lot of concern in the wine industry about spoilage from bad corks, or about what happens when a cork meets the wine in a bottle over time. There's a lot. Some people say up to 10% of loss in wine that is sealed with cork. The Portuguese, with the big cork producers, would say it's much, much less than that.
Of course.
But some people would say certainly 10%.
Okay.
So screw cap is one way to keep your wine clean and sealed and pristine while allowing it to still develop and age as a wine will under cork, but in a slightly different way.
Okay.
So that being said, screw caps are produced, put on wines, lots of different wines now at all sorts of different price points, not just cheap wine. And certainly even $100 French wines are now being sealed with screw cap.
Before we do that, let's do a quick break and we'll continue because we're going to show you how to pour this wine, how to order this wine, and how to taste it. That'll be next on Travel Show Live. Stay with us.